start talking about people in relationships because, and I think you are no exception to this, but the nightlife impresarios I've met and worked for over the years, and the best restaurateurs I know, they're people. Like, they're not passionate about food and beverage. They're passionate about people and experience. And it's through that lens that I look at the industry, that I think I came up through and I excelled in the industry. And I look at you as a man who's deeply connected. And so if we go all the way back to the beginning or the middle of the beginning, it was about people and it was about building one-to-one relationships at scale. And when you had no money and you had nothing going for you, I would assume it was about being some mixture of interesting and useful. How did you build those relationships with the people that helped inform your career in those early days?
I don't know. I don't think I really looked at it from a networking perspective. I don't think I ever thought, how do I build relationships? It was always like how I could do things differently. I think your first sentence kind of summed it up perfectly. Like, I think in all of us, who have venues and who are restaurateurs or in nightlife have this burning feeling like they could do it, but they could do it differently, not necessarily better, because everyone has their own niche and their own strength, and I don't think anyone's better than anyone else. I just think you have your own little thing you're really good at, and I kind of realized early on what that was, and I kind of just drove it home and followed through. I mean, it was very daunting because when I arrived, I really had nothing. I had $75 in my pocket, a jacket, 2 pairs of jeans, and 3 t-shirts. I got off a boat in Connecticut and I had this dream, and I was saying to my wife the other day how incredible it is, how incredible humans are in the mind. You can just put this little seed into your head and just thinking about it and dreaming about it can bring it to reality, no matter how big your dream is or ridiculous it seems. Every one of us has that power or potential to achieve what we want to do.
And in those early days, would you say that the power was in the network that you created, whether intentional or not?
Oh, that's a really good fucking question. I think I just try to be a good, honest person. I think I didn't go out there to try and build relationships or networks. I just wanted to be, and I think that's been instilled in me from my parents. I mean, just to be a good person and do what I do and try and do it to the best of my ability. I mean, you see some people who are exceptional networkers, and that's what their strength is. Like, they go out with that goal and they build this database and these relationships. I think my concepts or my brands really built those relationships, not me.
There is something to be said. So, I mean, when you got into the industry at the age and the time you did, you ended up with great brands, right? And so that is a step in the right direction. And there's this entrepreneurial phrase, right? Proximity is power. And so proximity is
mean?
power. In
I don't
my mind,
that.
what it means is that if you are surrounded by successful people, some of it rubs off. That you learn the behavior of successful people by hanging out with successful people. That it's, in working with great restaurateurs, you learn the process of creating a great restaurant. It's kind of around the, your network is your net worth. It's, Tony Robbins says, that, all entrepreneurs should be surrounding themselves with investment bankers, people that understand money and the flows of money and the way money works, because everyone has great ideas, but that's how you create great execution. And what I found is through, let's call it like that mentorship through osmosis, almost just being in proximity of people and learning from watching their behavior, that there's an opportunity there. Does that ring true for you?
Yeah, I think it doesn't only ring true to me from the ownership perspective. I think it also rings true to me watching the busboys come in and grind like they do every day, or the dishwashers and the sacrifice they make every day. I mean, that to me is also very uplifting and makes one want to be, work as hard as we want to work. I think there's so many people in our industry that would inspire us on a daily basis. I mean, I had a dishwasher that came from Africa. He was a young guy. He was 24 years old and left his 2 young children, 2 and 4, and moved to the United States and sacrificed all those formative years of his children and his wife, who he loved very much, so he could send money back so his family could grow. I mean, those type of things. I mean, when you talk about osmosis, those are the type of things that I think lift us up as humans and make us better people and make us better businessmen as well. Because I mean, you see sacrifice and you see what people are putting into your business daily. You should be putting in twice that amount,
Let's talk.
you know?
It
I don't know if that
does.
makes sense, but I mean,
Let's talk about the genesis of Kane. Like you had the idea, great idea, and beautiful execution for what it's worth.
thank you. Thank you.
But to make that dream a reality, several pieces had to come into place perfectly. Talk to me about that. How you ensured that this would be as great in practical application as it was in your mind.
I think the biggest thing that holds people back is fear. And I think if you really are passionate or you really believe in what you want to do, you can't allow any of that to creep into any of your mind or any of your thoughts or any of your path forward. I remember so many people trying to steer me away from it. I remember showing a person I really respected in the industry and showing him the space and saying, this is what I want to do. This is the space, and talk through the concept. And he turned to me and said, you're out of your fucking mind. It's never going to work. And I remember that comment was the thing that was like, fuck that. It's definitely going to work. So I think having an idea or a thought and just sitting on that thought and every day, putting up a board in my home and coming home from bartending and finishing up the business plan and refining the business plan and then working on the mood board. Another picture goes on the board and then it grows. And the next day, another picture goes on. Every day it just grew and grew and grew and grew. And I think the best salesmen are the ones that really believe in their product. And I believed in it with every inch of my being. I think it was something different. It was an idea that was different, and it was what was going on with New York was completely different. So it didn't take me a lot to sell the concept and raise the funds. But I mean, like anything, anything that's rushed to fruition too quickly breaks down just as easily. So it's really a long-term play, and it really needs to be built brick by brick. And you need to go through a lot of hardship. You don't get to that place without hardship. You've owned your own places. You need to suffer. Suffering makes us better. And I mean, and if you don't suffer opening a place, then there's fucking clearly something very wrong. So, I mean, it was just this dream and it came into reality. And I remember my wife and I had nothing in our account that day we opened. We literally didn't have 1 cent. I had maxed all my credit cards, all the money I'd made. It was all into the venue. We didn't have enough for the $300-$500 banks for the bartenders that night. And my wife was modeling at the time, and she had got a check, but we wanted to go cash the check, but obviously you have the funds in your account to cash it against. So, I mean, I remember the day so clearly. We drove up to the bank, and my wife went out and spoke to the bank manager, and he gave us half the money. So it was like half the check was exactly $1,500. We managed to put the money in the safes for that day. But from that day forward, it was just a rocket ship, man. We had like 1,600 people through the venue in the first day. A lot of celebrities. I mean, and it was all organic. There was nothing paid for. It wasn't this pay to play with celebrities. It just took off. And we were very blessed. I was surrounded by a team of really solid people and who've gone on to do amazing things themselves. But I think the point that I'm trying to make is if you do have an idea or you have a thought, push on through that hardship to get to the other side, because it's worth so much on the other side. You don't even know what's waiting for you on the other side.
I want to talk about being cool. So you're like a cool dude. I did a bunch of research. Through the whole research, I was like, swear to
I
God,
don't think so,
swear to God, that is objective fact. But like you're like a cool dude that does cool things. And when you're developing concepts, right? Cool does play a factor. And while you might not define it as cool, I'm sure that we can both agree that a lot of people look at your career and the things that you've created and they say, man, that shit is really cool. And the type of cool that you've created, the type of brand you've created, they're not trendy. You're not riding trends. It is this universal, intrinsic, cool factor that you see when you go into other places, but is really hard to define. And so I would ask you to fucking define it. What?
Jeez, mate. If I had that fucking answer, I'd be a multi-billionaire. I don't know what it is. I think it's just, I mean, I feel something and I go with it. I think and I think the thing with concepts like that, I think you really need to be honest. You can't sit there and say, I'm going to do this for this reason. I think there's two things. I think you have to sit and say, why am I doing it? And am I honest in doing it? Am I doing it for, these corporate cliques, or am I doing it because we see that's the trend we want to go to? And the other side of that, I mean, and you have to be brutal on yourself. The other side of that is, what are you giving people? Because to me, like my new concept, Ketchy, Shuby, the whole idea was to try and give back. And this idea of hospitality is so fucking important in people's lives. It's not a club. It's not a restaurant. It's not a lounge. It's not a bar. People meet their fucking spouses. People have, get married and have children. People are going through divorces. They have a fucking incredibly rough time in the city, failing exams or losing their job. And it's a place where people can go to and get lifted. And I think that's what the focus has always been in all my venues, was to try and create an honest interpretation of something that was positive or something that was tangible. Like, it had to be real. Like, it couldn't be fake, because people see through that shit so quickly.
And it's a beautiful thought, but it's really hard to implement. It is, because
it is.
You're bought in, right? Your leadership team is bought in, but like, your company is comprised of people that aspire to one day quit to go follow their own dreams, right? So,
yeah,
right,
100%.
So it's an interesting dynamic, because like, as you're talking, I'm like, fuck yeah, hire me today, let's do this thing, because it's so inspiring. But on a line level, right? The person that takes their coat at the door, right? The person that walks them to the table, the person that busses that table. To achieve that level of hospitality, everybody has to be bought into the same thing. Which brings me to the next question, which is culture.
So right.
Like, how do you bake that into the cake?
It goes back to being truthful and honest. I mean, you can't sit with your entire team and tell them a story and say what it is, what our path is, what is our message, what is our concept, how are we giving back, what is this that we're doing on a daily basis. If you don't believe it and you don't really be honest with them, then they won't believe, And the thing is, like people, we attract like-minded people. I mean, everyone I work with on my new concept, Ketchy Shuby, everyone that's in that venue, from the dishwasher to the security to the floor staff, they are all good people. Good people. Like, they are honest, just there for the right reasons. And it was so important when I hired, and my general manager at the time was fucking losing his shit, because he was like, great, they're good people, but none of them have experience. And I'm like, it's okay, we'll teach them. It's that you can't teach. And it's so weird. Like, you go to a concert or a venue where there's so much energy, and you feel it, and everyone feels an energy we don't talk about enough in our business, but because it's the intangible, but we feel it as humans. You walk into a place and there's a lot of the same people giving off the same energy. It's palpable. Like, it's really, I remember walking to a little bar in the West Village in the city in New York, and, it was a shitty little bar, but when you walked in, you felt something really good. I remember having a chat and a beer with the bartender. He was like, yeah, the mother painted the walls, the grandfather did all the woodwork. That shift translates. It really does, man. And we don't pay enough attention to that. That's a problem. When you get to the corporate level and you start spewing out these concepts, it's clinical, and it doesn't have feeling, and it doesn't have emotion. And that's what people, especially this new generation, I feel is really gravitating towards.
How do you connect with, so to flashback 25 years, so I'm running nightclubs in Hollywood, and back then the nightclub apparatus, the nightlife apparatus was this. For younger people that listen to this, they're going to be like, I don't understand any of the things I'm about to say. So this predates social media by a long stretch. So the way it works is, you open a club, you would open off peak. So you would open on like a Tuesday night, right? All the celebrities would come on Tuesday night. It's bottles, it's all of this. The paparazzi catches them on the way out the door. That runs in Us Weekly. And then that weekend, everyone from Orange County comes in to have a similar experience to what Paris Hilton experienced on Tuesday, even though there's no way these people would ever get into the club on Tuesday. Rinse and repeat. This is the nightlife model, and it was very similar in New York. Much of that was disrupted by social media, but I would say a bigger issue there was that there was no longevity. And then you look at Kane, and you would say, I mean, what a magnificent outlier that, it was hot, maybe at some point cooled to warm, right? But I mean, is as relevant now as it has ever been, And so how do you build something that has that level of longevity when I would argue, at least in nightlife, every 10 years, it's a new generation.
Yeah, I think you're 100% right. I mean, it's changed so much. I think some of the structural elements that you talked about earlier are still there for sure, but it definitely has changed. But I think the most important thing, especially in nightlife, is not to have greed. Like, it's so easy to grab that big money, and, it just disrupts the culture. And you've got to, it's a slow burn. People want to, nightclubs traditionally are not around for a long time. If Gold Bomb was around for fucking 12 years, Kane, if they hadn't shut that street down, would still be
For
going.
sure.
I think it was so amazing. But I think it's the size of the venue, and I also think you can't get greedy. You've got to think very long term. You've got to hold to what your concept is. I remember, at Kane when we first opened, or even at Surf Lodge, when we were at Surf Lodge, people were asking for like just house music, and they'd buy a certain amount of bottles to play a certain song. And it was like, you can't. You have to put your foot down and saying, this is a concept. This is the concept. This is the pathway that we've laid out, and we can't veer from it. Because once you start taking a little step to the left, a little step to the right, it breaks it down. You know this. I mean, you've been through it a million times. I think there's so many things. Tight door. I mean, the right staff. I mean, it's just, those are the things I think that give you the longevity.
Let's talk about Gold Bar. I'll share my personal experience, and then I want to hear yours. So I came out of nightlife. Like, literally the first restaurant that I ever ran was the one that I built for myself off the back of the bar that was able to finance it. And the bar was great. 900 square feet, was generating, let's call it between 1.4 and 1.8 million dollars a year. Like, oh my God,
holy
cash
shit.
register. Great
Good
for
you, mate.
Fabulous.
Amazing.
No,
promoters.
Nothing. We had 900 usable square feet, just
pure
cranked.
profit.
So this beautiful, beautiful thing. But having said that, like you mentioned, Gold Bar's been around, or was around, for 12 years. I ended up selling that bar after 11 years. And the reason I sold it wasn't because it wasn't profitable anymore, but it was because I was old, Jamie, and like things had changed. And what I saw as this asset and this thing that was just cash flowing beautifully, I began to see as a liability, right? That I was just waiting for the next lawsuit or the next this or the next that. And I mean, I had an appetite for that. I could deal with that in my early 30s. I had no appetite for that in my early 40s. And so you've been in it for as long, if not longer than me. And I would ask, as it relates to nightlife generally, how have your interests changed relative to your evolution as an entrepreneur?
I started in nightlife. I mean, it's in my core, and I love it. I think there is nothing better in the world than to walk in a room where the energy is just heaving and people are enjoying themselves and smiles on their faces and letting go to the music and meeting new people. That to me is the most uplifting thing as an operator. But fuck, I'm 54 years old, mate. I mean, I've been in nightclubs for like over 30 years now. It's crazy. But luckily I have a very good team that stay late and run everything, and I trust them. And I have to be there every night. That's just fact. I mean, I can't just rest on my laurels. I mean, it's hard work, and you have to be there. You have to oversee everything, because it's like what we said earlier, especially nightlife. It's the little movement, the slightest movement in one direction. You need to keep knocking it back on the same path. You know what it's like. So you have to be there. If you're not there, it's just everything starts changing. So yeah, it's tough. Tough at my age to be going out that late and doing it. But I mean, I love what I do. I really, I mean, Ketchy Shuby is a restaurant as well. So it's a little bit more mature, and it's more responsible, you know, more responsible venue as an operator. But I really love what I do, and I don't think I could do anything else. I know I could do it. I don't have any skills for anything else. So that's all I know, mate.
You've had this beautifully dynamic career, though, and one of the things that I think is super interesting about your career is the expanse, like the distance. So Surf Lodge in Montauk or Kane in Atlantis. I think that stretches us as an entrepreneur, right? Because having something that you own, that you're directly responsible for, that you have to influence the culture of on a daily basis, that you are nowhere near, is complicated. And so, how did your
Yeah.
leadership style change to be able to fit all of these concepts with all of the distance?
Well, I mean, it was crazy, man, because we opened Kane
Right.
2004. In 2007, I opened, within a year of each other, I opened Gold Bar, Surf Lodge, and Kane at the Cove in Bahamas. So, and I remember Saul Kersner telling me when I was asking him about stuff, he said, the thing I have to warn you about is don't expand too quickly. And shit, you can't expand quicker than that. I was like, I should have paid more attention. But I think the thing is that I had to learn, and I had to learn quickly. But I think the thing that taught me the most was being at Atlantis in Bahamas and working close side people like Ian Reid and George Marcantonis and all those upper executives in a big corporate company, where that style of management, I got a glimpse of that, on a weekly basis, and it really taught me so much, not only on leadership style, but also on operations. And that was a university for me. It taught me a lot, because I think coming from New York nightlife, I was a little bit more lax, but coming into that corporate environment, it taught me a lot. But I think also the other beautiful thing, like all four of those concepts that were running at the same time, all was like a petri dish. It was like the celebrity-driven mixology bar, the full-on nightclub, the hotel with live music, which was Surf Lodge, and then Kane, the beach club, the 30,000 square. They were all completely different concepts, and it was almost just this thing that I was going through to try and find the perfect. And now I feel like I've found it. Like with Ketchy Shuby, it's really, this concept it's really
Talk to me
special.
about that. Talk to me about how, because Steve Jobs has this great quote about, like, it's so easy to look back and connect the dots, right? And that the greatest challenge as an
Yeah,
entrepreneur is to be able to look
yeah,
forward with the belief that those dots will connect as well. But when
yeah,
you look at, and
yeah.
when I look at your career as an outsider, Ketchy Shuby does seem to be like the most logical progression. How did you come to it? What does it represent in your career?
It was, I was talking to a friend of mine who was an exceptional designer, and I was trying to put my head around this thought, this idea that I'd been playing with since the beginning of when I got into the concept. And this idea was Rastafari. And I think it's this idea, or this lifestyle, is exceptional, because it's about acceptance. It's about, doesn't matter the color of your skin. It's about warmth. It's about love. It's about forgiveness. It's about nature. It's about treating your body well. It's all these things that are just so beautiful about mankind. And I had this idea. I was like, how do I take that and put it into a concept? I mean, it's a fucking ridiculous notion. And I remember going to Sean Olnovich, who's basically does all our food for Ketchy Shuby, who's a fucking legend. And I said to him, I've got this idea, and it's about Rasta. And my first step was about the food, because the food will tell the story of the concept. If the food's shit, it's just going to be another hot place, and no one's going to give a shit. So this was 12 years ago. I spoke to him about the concept for Ketchy Shuby. And we worked through this menu, no pork. It was very much something for everyone. You know, you could have protein, but you can also eat vegan. Like there was something for everyone on the table. And then I started to put the thought into my head, and I got Dimitri Hyacinth, who owned Provocateur, and PM, who's been Nightlife for the longest time, who's an exceptional human being, a good friend of mine. And we walked through the concept, and we started to implement these ideas. And it was very important to create a venue that wasn't one specific geographical location. It should be a feeling that is just feeling like you belong there. Like it shouldn't be Tulum or it shouldn't be South Africa. It should just feel natural and raw. At the same time, uplifting and warm. And warmth was the thing that I just wanted to drive home on. That it's got to feel warm. It's got to translate from the lighting to the design to the staff. And the mood board was this. I always had this vision. It was weird. I had this fucking dream one night that I was in the woods eating at this long wooden table with all my friends on candlelight, and I heard this drumming, and I got up and I followed this like orange light, and it came to a big tree, and there was this big knot in the tree. This sounds fucking ethereal. Oh my God, they're mine. But I mean, I looked down the knot, and there were these steps, and we went down the steps, and there was this orange glow of red and orange in this room, and there were all these drummers, and people were celebrating life. And that's what we've created at Ketchy Shuby. It's really something that is incredibly warm. It's beautiful, man. I really love the concept, and the staff and the family there are amazing. And it's going so well. Like we have, within 12 months, we had 2 venues. We're about to open the 3rd. We have a lot of interest for other markets. So it's going really well.
Well, can you hear me? Can you see me? Sweet.
Yeah, I can see you, mate.
Okay.
Yeah.
I want to talk about vibe for a minute because I think it goes back to what we were talking about initially, and I think you're uniquely qualified to talk about it. A lot of people that open, there are 3 classes of people that I think open restaurants. There are restaurateurs, which are people that don't know how to cook but hire a chef and have like front of house operations. Then there are chefs that could give a fuck about the aesthetic, and all they're really concerned about is the food, right? The food is the star of the show. And then there are people that are born out of nightlife, like you and I. And I think that there's a superpower that comes from knowing how to make somebody feel through decor, lighting, and sound. And I would say that this is probably one of your core competencies, but also something that is greatly missed in so many other venues. I know restaurateurs that go to other restaurants and they just feel it, right? It all makes sense. And then they're like, how can I do that in my own restaurant? How can I make it make sense in my restaurant? I think on the West Coast, the Houston brothers do an excellent job with this and like bringing you into their world. And I think you do an excellent job with it as well. Can you talk to me about that? Because as much time as you spent on the menu and the beverage program, I am certain you spent as much time trying to figure out what levers you needed to pull to make people feel a specific way.
Yeah, I think 100%. I think it's the number one thing. I mean, you look at people like Schrager. I mean, they came out of that world as well. I think you've nailed it. A lot of the best people have had nightlife at the back of them. I mean, Sol Kersner had it. I mean, a lot of the great people have been. I think you have to touch on that a little bit to like create those feelings or experiences. Yeah, I mean, it's not a specific roadmap. I mean, it's what you feel. I mean, when you walk in a room, you know what that concept needs and what it has to feel like. And I think while my concepts have all been very different, I think there's been a little bit of a common thread that runs through them. And I think that's the thing that you talk about, this feeling or bring people into your world. I think we have been pretty good at that. And I think, well, good at it for what's us. Other people do it in a different way and they're good at it that way. I just think, I don't think there's a specific path that you follow for each venue. I think each venue is different, but yeah, I mean, I've always gone off this idea of warmth and what warmth means to me and how it translates into each venue.
The one nice thing about food, because the margins aren't great, but the one very nice thing about food relative to nightlife, let's say, is that it's universal. People are always going to want to eat. And one of the things that I'm sure you've noticed in New York and I noticed in LA is that there is this temperance movement. I would say that it started in 2017, 2018. The
What
temperance
movement, mate?
movement. People are drinking less,
What's that?
right? You see it. People are drinking less. It is, the culture is somehow evolving. Probably due to the legalization of weed and all of these other things that people have access to. But alcohol is not as popular statistically as it once was. And you know what I mean?
100%.
And so, as people that came out of nightlife, like, you recognize that and you say, what is that going to mean for the future? I talked to incredibly successful bar owners that are spending all of their time developing these non-alcoholic offerings as a result. But you are relying not on food, not on beverage, not on booze, but on experience. And so my question...
You've already answered the question, mate. I think you're cutting out, Josh. Yeah, I can hear you now, mate. You keep cutting out. No, not at all, mate. Don't stress it. I don't look. Yes, okay. That's what it's called. I don't know. It was called that temperance movement. I think if you create the right environment, people are going to want to drink. People want to have a good time. I don't think there's no way out of it. I mean, if you're in the right mood, you're going to want to hang out and have a party and enjoy yourself. So, how do I market it? I don't market it anyway. I just hold firm with my concept and keep everyone moving in the same direction. And people, I mean, our sales are not down in alcohol. In fact, they're going up. So I think it's luckily, I mean, from year one, we way up. We're like 20-something% up in revenue. So we're rising. And I think there's a number of factors that we can attribute to that. But I think, yeah, if you create the right environment, people are going to want to drink and hang out. But I think you are right. I think generally there's definitely, I mean, it's not what it was in the 2000s, was it, mate?
No, certainly not. And I could sell a liter of Grey Goose. How much is that? $750. Sounds great. Don't go to the grocery store. You'll be alarmed if you figure out how much this bottle actually costs. Right? What you're really paying for is to sit on the banquette that somebody threw up on last night. That's the premium. Talk to me about balance. So, at 54,
Shit,
I'm sure you have a different worldview than you did at 24. So how has that changed? Because the industry has changed a lot in many ways and not at all in so many ways, especially as it relates to work-life balance, the needs of the individual businesses. So how do you view balance?
And balance is everything. I mean, I think it's tough because, I mean, I really love what I do and I put everything I have into what I do. I mean, every ounce of what I have, I put in. It's not half-assed. Like I believe in what I do and my team believes in what they do. And I think we're all dedicated and we're all driven, and it's tough because you're constantly thinking about it. I mean, I was up at 5 this morning thinking about something, like it's not normal, that's why I think I do so much of those extreme sports, because I think you can't think about anything else while you're doing that. You don't have the what's the word? You don't have the privilege of being able to think about anything else, otherwise you could fucking lose your arm, So it's that, I think, to try and get away and I mean, I do have a place upstate in the Catskills, but I haven't been away for the long time. My wife and I would go for like 2 days and try and get away, but it's tough, especially with the new concept. There's so much time and dedication and sacrifice. And my son's not young anymore. He's in university now. So it's okay for me to spend so much time at the business, but it can, nightlife can be so fucking draining, man. And people don't realize it's day, it's night, you don't get long weekends, in these public holidays, it's when you're burning. So you've got to, all that time, you never have time off. And so you have to try and put balance, otherwise you do burn out. But it's easy to say, but it's not so easy to implement.
How do you think about growth these days? Are you looking to build out
as a human,
as an entrepreneur? I mean, it's,
I look at growth completely differently. I think I look at my businesses a lot more like a business now. When I had Kane, when I had Surf Lodge Global, I could have grown those brands. I never did. And now I found a brand and I'm growing it aggressively. I have two young partners who work with me now who are incredible, who really support me in areas where I need support. And they're working on growth and building it, and it's going really well. So that's what I've needed, and we balance each other really well, and it's working incredibly well. I mean, we did a Ketchy beach in the Hamptons. We had, what was it, 7 weeks to build it out after signing the contract and get it done. We got it done in time. We knocked it out the park in Southampton, thank God, because it was a hell of a risk. But I mean, everything went really well. And I think I'm focusing on growth now. I'm focusing on Ketchy Shuby. That's where all my time and effort is going into, is taking this brand and growing it out and taking it to different markets and let other people experience it, because I think we really do have something special.
And do you think about how big? Do you have a finish line? Do you have a number? Do you have a number of locations? Is this about?
Yeah, I don't want to do that. No, sorry, I cut you off. I'd say it was rude of me. What were you saying?
I was saying,
is this about what?
Is there a finish line? Is there a stated goal for this thing? Or is it just, I'm going to grow it until I'm no longer interested in growing it?
I think that's what it is. I mean, I'm emotionally attached to it. So it's very difficult to say, I'm going to grow it and do 8 of them and then sell it right away. I mean, it's easy to say and you talk about it and you do say that. But I mean, I think the fact is I just want to grow it. And selfishly, I want people to experience it. I think there is something different that we're doing, and it's special, and I want to shine a light on it. I really do. And I think that's what my driving force behind it is, And I've got a team who wants to grow with it, who I want. And you touched on it earlier, which was such a brilliant comment. That was like, you have people that are driven, that working alongside you, but you also want to see them grow, You want to see them do their own thing. And eventually they will. You can't hold them back from it. And I think it's a wonderful thing to see. But yeah, I think that's what the plan is. I mean, I want to have at least 8 of them.
What should we steal from you? When you look at your life, when you look at your career, and through the lens of, there are tens of thousands of people listening right now that are looking to improve their lives and their businesses. And there's so much about you that can't be replicated. But there are tactics, there are tools, there are strategies that have served you well throughout your career. What are those things that we could adopt in our own lives?
Look, I think we all have deep insecurities. I don't think there's one person on this planet that doesn't. I do. And I think I've got a lot of weaknesses as well. But I think it's very important not to dwell on those weaknesses or, your shortcomings. I think, like everything, mankind's a beautiful thing, man. Humans are beautiful things. Everyone focuses on the negative. You always see in the press, oh, man, this person's doing this. This is what we're doing to the environment. We also do beautiful things that we don't focus on. I think that's, as a human, I think that's what we really need to see, is the beauty in ourselves and the confidence we have to have in ourselves. Don't focus on the negative or what's happened in the past. Just focus on how special each one of us is. And we each have an ability. Whether you believe it or not, everyone on this planet has an ability, and we just need to focus on, what we do and what we do well, and, how good we are as humans. I think that's the only thing that, I try to focus on a daily basis. It's fucking difficult, but I try.
That was it, man. We got it. Oh my God, you're an amazing human. That's it. Look, for sure. Look, I only talk to the